Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in PG Island, Mexico, Spain, Africa, United Kingdom, Australia, and to all the living saints, 144,000 in number, scattered throughout the whole world. Special greetings. May the good Lord bless you and have a wonderful evening. This is our episode number 10 on the subject, the opening of the seventh seal. Now, to continue our subject, brothers and sisters, we already proven that the seven seals, according to track number 15 on page 10, saying, it being in seven sections, each section individually sealed. Seven seals in all are consecutively broken, permitting each section to unfold its own contents. The first seal or section of the book discloses the things of Revelation 6 verse 2. So we'll focus first our attention to the very first seal. First of all, the breaking of the seven seals commenced in October 22, 1844 in the heavenly sanctuary. And to repeat again, in track number 5, page 34, it says, in the main, however, the trumpets and the seals portray an event which is future from John's time and which takes place in heaven. So we'll be taking first the occurrences that takes place in heaven, by which that is the main prophetic event. Now, in track number 15 on page, let's read again the statement. On page 9, it says, track number 15, page 9, he was taken in vision to see and to write those eventful things which were to take place at the time the judicial throne of Revelation 4 and 5 should actually convene. As to the other things, the things which follow as a result of the event, assured he who has the case of hell and death somewhere and somewhere to be. Revelation 1 verse 19. That is, when this divine throne convenes, then some of the things that are brought to view as a result of the event are already history, while some of them are yet prophecy. Some point back and some point forward. Track number 15, page 9. So what are those things that already in the past? They are the groundwork, not the particular object in view. So reading again in track number 5 on page 32, it says, the statements which must shortly come to pass, Revelation 1 verse 1, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter, Revelation 4 verse 1, go to say that the revelation is given with the one particular object in view, showing the things lying not behind but ahead of John's time, with reference being made only incidentally to the past in order to lay the necessary foundation upon which to build the future. And in page 33, it says, so though all such prophecies necessarily bring to our attention things which took place centuries ago, yet they are designed, like the revelation, to show to God's people things which must shortly come to pass. Fulfilled prophecies are seen, therefore, to be employed by the Scriptures only as groundwork for that part of prophecy which is yet to be fulfilled. Track number 5, page 32, 33, and page 34. So, in this study, we will now distinctly separate, brothers and sisters, the groundwork and the particular object in view. And according to our reading here in 2SR page 200, let's read 2SR page 200 and 201. So, it is entitled The Opening of the Book. Revelation 5 verse 2 up to verse 8. Then it says, "This scripture reveals that there is not another in the vast universe of God that is worthy or that can open the book, for the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed." Christ acquired the above title by his birth and by his victory on the cross for those who would believe in him as the Savior of the world. He has prevailed by shedding his blood on Calvary. Thus none other can open the book, for he alone has died for the human race. This book contains the names of the saints, and the seven seals comprise prophetically the world's history during which time the saints are sealed. These 7 periods of unfulfilled history sealed the book, and the only one that could open it, see into the future, was the Lamb. And to us are page 200 and page 201. So the statement says 7 unfulfilled history. So the statement 7 periods of unfulfilled history can be simply means that there must be particular object in view in its respective seals, by which that particular object in view must find its fulfillment in the judgment of the living. And that is the reason why the promise is that the book of Revelation will be more fully understood during the judgment of the living, according to 2TG number 12, page 30. Saying, the revelation, therefore, is to be more fully understood during the judgment of the living. 2TG number 12 on page 30. Now, I would like to read to you this reading and the old symbolic code. It says here, old symbolic code. Now, let's read the statement. Questions and answers. Let's read this statement. 2 symbolic code number 7 and 8, page 9. So, 2 symbolic code number 7 and 8, page 9. Questions and answers. The seals begin. What biblical proof have you for placing as you do the seals of Revelation, chapter 4 to 7 and the first part of the 8? Why make them span the entire world's history when the Seventh-day Adventist denomination has been teaching for years that they begin after the crucifixion? Answer. The questioner has a perfect right to ask for biblical proof of our interpretation of the Scriptures, but he must remember that our rights are as good as his. Hence, before answering his questions, we would like to ask him to give us but one scripture as the basis upon which he can establish that the seals span the Christian era only. Our being as well informed as the questioner on all the doctrines which the denomination teaches and of the proofs upon which they are based, we are free to say that the strongest and the only foundation upon which the denominational interpretation stands is grounded upon the presumptuous idea that the white horse and he that sat on him, going forth conquering and to conquer, Revelation 6 verse 2, represents the early Christian church in her best spiritual condition. This position is assumed upon the unmitigated presumption that the color of the horse white must represent the purity of the early church, and that the words conquering and to conquer stand for her rapid growth after Pentecost. We agree that white stands for purity and that conquering and to conquer could represent the growth of the church. But what proof would that be if such an idea is contradicted by all other truths? For example, we call the reader's attention to the fact that when John was about to be shown in vision the events in the seven seals, it was about 65 years after the Pentecost, and in the period when the church was already declining from her spiritual condition. The voice which he heard said to him, "Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter." Revelation 4 verse 1. That is, the event which he was to be shown was to transpire in the future, hereafter, from the time John had the vision. Now let us take notice of the event he saw, says John. I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne, and I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within, and on the backside sealed with 7 seals. And no man in heaven, nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept much, and one of the elders said unto me, Weep not, behold, the tribe of Judah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book, and to loose the 7 seals thereof. Revelation 4 verse 2, Revelation 5 verse 1, and verse 3 to 5. The event of which John prophesied was to transpire in the future from John's time, instead of having already taken place. So that is very plain, brothers and sisters, that the event which John prophesied was still in the future in his days. That is pointing to the particular object in view, or the focal point of the prediction on the subject, the 7 seals. So the application on the first seal, that it commenced from Adam to the flood, is only kindred events in relation to the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary as contributory to that main prophetic event, as we already read in tract number 5 on page 34, brothers and sisters. But the particular object in view, the fulfillment must be from 1844 onwards, because the word hereafter is pointing to 1844 in the time of the end, according to the voice of inspiration. Now, I would like to read 2SR. Let us read 2SR, page 194. It says, unless the meaning of every symbol is fittingly explained so that it cannot be contradicted, and a present truth lesson with special significance derived, the interpretation cannot be dependable, and there can be no truth in it. God does not make vain repetitions, neither would he waste the time of his servants to write them. Therefore, every little symbol has its meaning and reveals a great truth. So that is the statement given by the voice of inspiration, that every little symbol has its meaning and reveals a great truth. So let us now try to decipher, brothers and sisters, every symbolization of the first seal. Now, I would like to read first here in 2SR 205. So we are now trying to review. To repeat again, let us distinctly separate the event by which the occurrence is viewing, and also the occurrence by which it is reviewing. Here in track number 15, it says here, brothers and sisters, so track number 15, page 9, he was taken in vision to see and to write those eventful things which were to take place at the time the judicial throne of Revelation 4 verse 5 should actually convene. As to the other things, the things which follow as a result of the event, assured he who has the case of hell and death, somewhere and somewhere to be. Revelation 1 verse 19. That is, when this divine throne convenes, then some of the things that are brought to view as a result of the event are already history, while some of them are yet prophecy. Some point back and some point forward. So, the statement says, are brought to view, but the statement review, meaning second time. So, here in, let us read 2TG. Let me see if we'll find that one. In 2TG, number 14, page 14, we previously found that the judicial event opened with the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him. It disclosed the book sealed with the seven seals. It disclosed the revelation, and with it the heavenly assembly began its work of reviewing the past, the present, and the future of mankind. 2TG 14, page 14. So let us distinctly separate. When the judicial tribunal on the heavenly sanctuary, they were viewing, and also the period of time by which they were already reviewing, brothers and sisters. So the same with the occurrence on the earth, brothers and sisters. And since it is undeniable fact that the subject of the seven seals and also the seven trumpets, the very first time by which God bestowed the understanding unto his servant, it was in 1930. Or in other words, Sister White has no knowledge concerning the seven seals and the seven trumpets. So, in 1930 to 1955, that is the time that on this earth, the subject of the seven seals and the seven trumpets, God's people start viewing, brothers and sisters. But in our days, we are now reviewing, brothers and sisters. So, let us now study one by one the subject of the first seal. First seal, white horse. Revelation 6 verse 2. And I saw and behold, 2SR 205, reading 2SR page 200 and 205. So let's read the statement here. It says, And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and went forth conquering and to conquer. White being a symbol of purity denotes that the white horse represents the beginning of our world, sinless as the earth was in her garb of beauty and perfection, with all the wonders on the land and in the sea. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden. Everything that God had made was the perfection of beauty, and nothing seemed wanting. In this garden were trees of great variety, many of them laden with fragrant and delicious fruits. There were lovely vines, presenting a most graceful appearance, with their branches dropping on their load of tempting fruit of the richest and most varied hues. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 46 and 47. The earth with its delicate flowers and carpet of living green, over which the blue heavens spread as it done, exhibited a natural beauty and elegance such as no language can describe. Only the great master artist can bring forth such a wonder without a flaw. And then it says, as the first rider, as the white horse represents the beginning of our earth in our sinless state, the rider can be none other than Adam himself, with whom the judgment began. The crown is a symbol of kingly authority, and God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish and of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Genesis 1 verse 26. The same is expressed in the words, And a crown was given him. Therefore the Lord set in motion a perfect world, with a king created by the hand of God, and we are the sons of royalty. Behold the white horse, and he that sat on him went forth conquering and to conquer. The symbolical words are, it says, the symbolical words are the fulfillment of the words spoken by the Creator's lips. God blessed them, Adam and Eve, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it. Genesis 1 verse 28. It was God's plan to multiply the human family and to have them subdue the earth. Therefore Adam went conquering and to conquer. Though sin entered and death claimed the human family, God's plan has been carried out and the earth is inhabited. Thus, he went forth conquering and to conquer. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow. The bow is an instrument used to conquer with, it says, or replenish. Therefore, Adam was given a bow, Eve, corresponding with the words, And the Lord God said, It is not good that man should be alone, and I will make him an helpmeet. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead it says, thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. He shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. And Adam called his wife named Eve, because she was the mother of all living. The sacred institution was originated by the creator of the universe. Marriage is honorable. It was one of the first gifts of man, and it is one of the two institutions that after fall of Adam brought with him beyond the gates of paradise. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 46. Thus Adam conquered, inhabited the earth with the bow, Eve. 2SR 205 and 206. Now, let us now review, brothers and sisters, so that we could be able to see what is the particular object in view on the first seal, by which the shepherd's rod declared clearly it is still unfulfilled. In track number 15, let's read the statement. Track number 15, on page 39 to 41, here in these pages, you can easily discern that the first seal commenced in 4000 BC. You can see 4000 BC, brothers and sisters. Now, it says, naturally, the first seal, the seal which with the judgment opens, must contain the things at the very inception of the human race. Logically, then, the white horse, the first in the symbolism, identifies the world's first state of being pure and sinless, with a divine crowned ruler, rider, who at first had no goal but to subdue the earth and to fill it with eternal God-like beings. The earth itself was wrapped in a garb of beauty and purity, with all the wonders on land and in sea, not once one thing. Now, let us read answerer number 2. Answerer number 2, page 30, it says here. Answerer number 2, page 30. Mark that the events symbolized were to materialize sometime after John had vision, not before. Had the vision. Let's read again. Answerer number 2, page 30. Mark that the events symbolized were to materialize sometime after John had the vision, not before. Furthermore, where in any instance of the scriptures ever symbolized the church by a man riding on a horse, if the horse symbolizes the church, then what of the man? We know that the shepherds had already rebuked such erroneous idea to say that the horse represents the church. Or in other words, there is no such symbolization in the Bible as well as in its prophecy that horse represent church. And then the shepherd says that if the horse represents the church, then what of the man? Now, I would like to read again the statement in the old symbolic code. 3 symbolic code, 8 to 10, page 9. 3 symbolic code, 8 to 10, page 9, it says, the nature of the 7 last plagues is not yet revealed. The revelation is written in figurative speech, and therefore the description of the plagues may be symbolical, as are the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets. 3 symbolic code, 8 to 10, page 9. So this reading is plainly telling us that the subject of the 7 seals, it is symbolical prophecy. Now, here the divine principle given by the shepherd's rod in track number 5. Let's read track number 5 on page 26. It says, symbolical or literal, which then it says, only when this question is rightly answered will we have the key, the correct interpretation to unlock this great symbolical treasure house of truth. And in page 41, in track number 5, it says that, for if every term is not symbolical, how shall we differentiate those which are from those which are not? And how shall we know by which to define the truth? Track number 5, page 41. So in track number 5, page 26 and page 41, plainly telling us that every term in the subject of the 7 seals must be symbolical. For if not every term is symbolical, then how could we be able to differentiate those which are symbolical and those which are not? And it's very confusing. Now, since the subject of the 7 seals are symbolical prophecy, therefore the man riding on the white horse could not be literal man, because it is symbolical prophecy. brothers and sisters. Now, I would like now to enumerate one by one to prove that the application made by B.T. Hotep is only the groundwork. For if it is not groundwork, where is the groundwork then? Brothers and sisters, the Shepherd's Rod says in track number 5, I would like to read again the statement, says, in the main, however, the trumpets and the seals portray an event which is future from John's time and which takes place in bend, although they also portray kindred events. Of these related events, some are contributory and some are consequent to the main prophetic event. The former naturally precede and the latter naturally follow it historically. Now, the statement, the former naturally precede, that is the groundwork. The groundwork is always precede the particular object in view, because that is very illogical that the groundwork, or the particular object in view precede the groundwork. And it's also stated, right, in track number 5, page 32. I would like to read again, saying, the statements which must shortly come to pass, Revelation 1 verse 1, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter, Revelation 4 verse 1, go to say that the revelation is given with the one particular object in view, of showing the things lying not behind. So whatever the particular object in view, it must be ahead in John's time. And the word hereafter is pointing to 1844. So the occurrence from 4000 BC to the flood as the first seal, that is only the groundwork. That is not the particular object in view. Because according to this reading, in track number 5, page 32, that the revelation is given with the one particular object in view, showing of the things lying not behind but ahead of John's time, with reference being made only incidentally to the past, in order to lay the necessary foundation upon which to build the future. So we repeated several times that the word hereafter, according to 2SR 191, is pointing forward to 1844. So in that reading, we can immediately discern that the particular object in view, brothers and sisters, must be from 1844 onwards. But we already explained that all the particular object in view must be fulfilled in the judgment that pertains to the living, brothers and sisters. So let us now focus our attention, brothers and sisters, to the first seal. And before going to the first seal, let us read first, brothers and sisters, the statement given in track number 5, page 32 and also page 35. It says, this basic truth that each period of destruction follows only after a corresponding period of sealing is corroborated by the fact that the symbolical locusts which came up at the sounding of the fifth trumpet hurt only those men which had not the seal of God in their foreheads. All this shows that not only that each trumpet follows its sealing period, but also that the nature of the trumpets reveals the punishment of those who failed to receive the seal in their particular periods. Now let us connect first, brothers and sisters, the first trumpet with the first seal. The divine principle is that the trumpet must be the last warning message under its respective seal. Now, let us read track number 5, page 35. It says, naturally then, the first seal must precede the first trumpet, and the second seal, the second trumpet, and so on, like the needle and the shuttle, rather than that all 7 seals must precede all 7 trumpets. Now, brothers and sisters, let us help each other in studying this very important subject. So to repeat again, my dear brothers and sisters, the sealing of God's people under the first 6 seals, those who will be resurrected, takes place in the heavenly sanctuary, began in October 22, 1844. That is the commencement of the proceeding under the first seal. So, since the shepherd's rod plainly told us in tract number 5 on page 34 saying, in the main, however, the trumpets and the seals portray an event which is futures from John's time and which takes place in heaven. Tract number 5, page 34. So the divine principle must be applied both the happenstance on the earth and the occurrences in the heavenly sanctuary, by which, as a matter of fact, it is even more applied in the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary rather than on the earth, because the occurrences on the earth is only kindred events and related events by which it is contributory to the main prophetic event, by which the main prophetic event, such occurrence takes place in heaven, brothers and sisters. Now, in this study, we would like to prove to you that not only the seals, but as well as the trumpets. The trumpets, brothers and sisters, there is also groundwork and also particular object in view. So both the seals and the trumpets, the particular object in view must be in the period of the judgment of the living rather than in the period of the judgment that pertains to the dead. Now, I would like to read to you this reading, brothers and sisters, in tract number, let's read tract number 15. Tract number 15 on page 64. So let us read tract number 15, page 64. It says, after a time, the judicial demonstrations, the voices saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, the thunderings and the lightnings cease for the space of half an hour, very definitely indicating that the judicial throne of the first session of the judgment adjourns. Following this, so that is very plain. Following to what? Following the half-hour silence. Or after the half-hour silence, the 7 angels are given the 7 trumpets. So, the 7 trumpets that had been given to the 7 angels after the half-hour silence, it must be the particular object in view, brothers and sisters, not the groundwork. Because the groundwork, the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets, it was given by God to 1930. And in 2TG number 14, page 15, it says, Chapter 10 discloses that the angel who opened, meaning unsealed. So the significance of open, meaning unsealed, or another term of unsealed, unfolded. So I would like to emphasize more. It is undeniable fact that the very first time by which God gave knowledge concerning the subject of the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets, it was in the days of Hotep in 1930 to 1955. Such understanding was not given by God to Sister White, to William Miller, and even to Alonzo Jones and Wagoner. So that is the first time by which such knowledge had been bestowed by God in the human family. And that is why that is the first time by which the 7 seals, the commencement of viewing the 7 seals, and whatever understanding that had been bestowed by God to Hotep, it is only the groundwork, not the particular object in view. And to repeat again, brothers and sisters, if the knowledge that had been given by God to Hotep is the particular object in view, where is the groundwork? And secondly, brothers and sisters, there is no proof at all that the messages that was given by God to Hotep is the particular object in view, but rather it is only the groundwork, brothers and sisters. Now, since we already proven with absolute fact that the subject of the 7 seals are symbolical prophecy, then the symbolization of the first seal, brothers and sisters, must be symbolical. The horse, brothers and sisters, and the color white, and as well as the man, the arrow, and the bow. Each of them individually must be symbolical. And the mere fact that in the primary application, the man there is Adam, then it is no longer symbolical, but rather literal. Therefore, it could not be the particular object in view. Because in the particular object in view, brothers and sisters, the man riding on that white horse must be symbolical, not literal man. And then the horse must also be symbolical. And I would like to read again the statement in answerer number 2 on page 30. It says, mark that the events symbolized were to materialize sometime after John had the vision. What events that were to materialize onward after the vision, the particular object in view? So the first seal that had been applied in the days of Adam, backward in the time when John the Beloved saw the vision, we already explained, right? In track number 532 and also page 33 and 34. It was employed by God to serve only as the groundwork and could not be the particular object in view. And here, brothers and sisters, then the shepherd's rod says, furthermore, where in any instance have the scripture ever symbolized the church by a man riding on a horse? If the horse symbolized the church, then what of the man? So that reading plainly indicating that there must be representation of the man as well as the horse. And I think we, the Bedian, will agree to the fact that horse represent messengers, right? The same with Zechariah chapter 6. The horses there represent the leadership or the messengers, brothers and sisters. Now, let us now focus our attention to the statement that creation is, in reality, it is the revelation. Do you remember that statement in given by the 1888 passage saying, God in creation is God in revelation, brothers and sisters. So, creation is also a revelation. Let me read to you that statement. It says here, in medical missionary, God in creation is God in revelation. So God in creation is God in revelation. Now let us read the Bible, brothers and sisters. In Genesis chapter 1. And I say Genesis chapter 1 on verse 26 and 27. And God said, let us make a man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Verse 27. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God created He him. Male and female created He them. Verse 28, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Now, if you will look at Genesis 1, verse 26, 27 to 28, it seems that it is not true in the real historical event in the days of creation. That if you will only study closely these three verses, you can easily discern that it is prophetic rather than historical event. Now, first of all, brothers and sisters, in chapter 2, the voice of inspiration made it so plain that at that time, Adam was alone. Now, let us read in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. So, in chapter 2, we can easily discern that, brothers and sisters, in that period of time, Adam was still alone. He has no companion. And how could it be that in chapter 1, there is already a declaration concerning male and female, brothers and sisters, although it did not say that Eve was created in Genesis 1, verse 26, 27, and 28. So let us ponder deeply, brothers and sisters, of what had been recorded in the Bible. Now, let us focus first to the occurrence in the days of creation, brothers and sisters. Now, here in medical missionary, let's go back again to our reading. brothers and sisters. Let's read the statement. How certainly and how completely this is so is illustrated in the record in Genesis chapter 2, when God had finished the creation up to the making of man himself. It says, He said, it is not good that the man should be alone. So, let me see. I'm looking for the diagram. I'm looking for the diagram, the marriage of Adam and Eve, and also the marriage of Florence Hotep. Is it entitled Coincides? Now, I would like to read again this reading and medical missionary. It says, how certainly and how completely this is so is illustrated in the record in Genesis chapter 2. When God had finished the creation up to the making of man himself, He said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. The man himself had not yet discovered that he was alone. And in order that he might see that he was truly alone, and that there was no one pitied to him, that there was no companion for him, the Lord caused every beast of the field and every fowl of the air to pass before the man, to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Now, first of all, I would like to emphasize, brothers and sisters, that the real history is that, brothers and sisters, there was a period of time that Adam was enjoying the work of God in the days of creation, brothers and sisters. That February 1, January 1, the marriage of Florence Hotep. Now, I would like to read Patriarchs and Prophets. Here in Patriarchs and Prophets, let us read, brethren. Patriarchs and Prophets on page 46. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 46. It says, after the creation of Adam, you see, that is after the creation of Adam, every living creature was brought before him to receive its name. He saw that to each had been given a companion. But remember, the statement in the spur prophecy says that in reality, Adam himself has no capacity to recognize that he is alone. So that thought, that mind that he had been able to realize that he was alone is the thought, the mind that was implanted by God to the mind of Adam. That before God created Eve, it is in absolute importance that Adam should notice and recognize that he was alone. Now, let us read again in Patriarchs and Prophets, page 46. It says, after the creation of Adam, every living creature was brought before him to receive its name. He saw that to each had been given a companion, but among them there was not found an helpmeet for him. Among all the creatures that God had made on the earth, there was not one equal to man. And God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. Man was not made to dwell in solitude. He was to be a social being. Without companionship, the beautiful scenes and delightful employments of Eden would have failed to yield perfect happiness. Even communion with angels could not have satisfied his desire for sympathy and companionship. There was none of the same nature to love and to be loved. Or I would like to emphasize, brothers and sisters, that after the creation week, on the 6th day of creation, and on the 7th day, when God rested, in commemoration, Adam also celebrated the very first Sabbath in the Garden of Eden. But Adam, he did not know of himself that he was alone. Right? That is the statement. Let us read again the statement given by the voice of inspiration. It says, medical missionary, the man himself had not as yet discovered that he was alone. So there was a period of time that Adam, brothers and sisters, he has no capacity that he could recognize that he was alone. And he was enjoying, brothers and sisters, the creation of God, together with the communion of or companionship of angels. But at the time that God implanted to his mind to his soul to recognize himself that he was alone, that is the time that he began to observe all the created beings. All of them has its own mate. And that is the time that Adam discovered that he was alone, brothers and sisters. And then it says, God himself gave Adam a companion. He provided an helpmeet for him, a helper corresponding to him, one who was fitted to be his companion and who could be one with him in love and sympathy. Eve was created from a rib taken from the side of Adam, signifying that she was not to control him as the head, nor to be trampled under his feet as an inferior, but to stand by his side as an equal, to be loved and protected by him. A part of man, bone of his bone, and flesh of his flesh, she was his second self, showing the close union and the affectionate attachment that should exist in this relation. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourished it and cherished it. Ephesians 5:29. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 46. So I think I need no longer to elaborate more, although we could give more elaboration in that reading. Maybe we will give more elaboration on that part, on the subject, the 6,000 years prophecy. But the only part that I would like to emphasize is that, brothers and sisters, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, 27, and 28, rather than a historical event, it is prophetic, brothers and sisters. Because how could it be that you will say that in verse 26, 27, and 28, there was already a female that had been created by God, while in chapter 2, Adam was still alone, and there was a period of time by which he himself never been able to discover that he was alone. Not until God, brothers and sisters, put into his mind to recognize that he was alone. And God permitted all the animals to pass before him. And secondly, the declaration given in verse 28 saying, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Why is it that the voice of inspiration used the word replenish rather than plenish? Now let us read the dictionary, brothers and sisters, so that we could understand. Here in the dictionary, it says, replenish, it is a verb. To fill or to make complete it again, second time, to become full again. So the word re, brothers and sisters, is a preposition. And when it will be added, brothers and sisters, meaning to do it once again. Now here in, let us read the definition of word also plenish. It says here, so let me read to you the statement given by, here the definition given in the dictionary. Plenish, let me see if I could found in this dictionary. Do you have the word there, dictionary, the word plenish? So plenish, what is the definition? To fill up, to supply. So that is the word of plenish. And the word re, let's read. What does it mean by the word re? That is a preposition, brothers and sisters, and meaning to do it again or once more. Do you have the word re? Because the word replenish added the preposition re, meaning it says preposition re. It is, when it is added, brothers and sisters, then it is to do it again or to do it once more. So that is the definition, brothers and sisters. Now, let us read 1SR 244. It says here, 1SR 244. It is wonderful to note the inspiration of the scriptures,
perfect they are when their appointed time is come. Only at such an occasion are the scriptures grammatically correct. Now let us read again the statement. It is wonderful to note the inspiration of the scriptures. Perfect they are when their appointed time is come. Only at such an occasion are the scriptures grammatically correct. So, in 2SR, page 118, it says, let's read. 2SR, page 118, this grammatical rule is followed in the scriptures and it is one way to recognize present truth. 2SR 118, it says, this grammatical rule is followed in the scriptures and it is one way to recognize present truth. In the old symbolic code, it says here, brothers and sisters, let us read this statement. 3 symbolic code, number 7, page 4. 3 symbolic code, number 7, page 4. You yourself know that such careless and thoughtless interpretations which pay no attention to language and which obey neither rule nor logic are not inspired but are private and thus inevitably false. 3 symbolic code number 7, page 4. So any explanation, any interpretation that do not pay attention to the grammatical expression used by the written word of God, it is private and it is inevitably false. Now, let us go back again, brothers and sisters, to the Bible. Remember, I would like to read this reading in 2SR on page 18. It says, 2SR page 18, one of the chief reasons why confusion arises among Bible students is because they do not entirely depend on the biblical expression of the words. They think themselves wiser than the prophets who were inspired with the Spirit of God and thus wish to correct the words and meaning of the Holy Bible. Hence, finite mortals have attempted to rectify and correct the Infinite One, whose wisdom, power, and vision is unsearchable. Though they know their interpretation of a text is not altogether in harmony with the whole tenor of the book and law, they see no injury and fear not God. And when the fact is revealed, they refuse to exchange error for truth because it contradicts their false theology. We invite the earnest attention of the reader upon this subject, and that he takes notice of the wonderful harmony of the scriptures and the great wisdom used in them. 2SR page 18. And that statement must be applied to the entire Bible, brothers and sisters. So, the Bible is very plain. First of all, there are two things that you can immediately discern, that Genesis 1 verse 26, verse 27 and 28 in reality is a prophecy rather than pointing, brothers and sisters, to a history. It is more pointing to the prophecy, brothers and sisters. So, let us read again the statement. It says, and God said, verse 26, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So, verse 26, it is pointing to the time when God created Adam on the 6th day of creation. But, brothers and sisters, verse 27 and 28, it says here, and so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So, the grammar used by inspiration could not be exactly appropriate, brothers and sisters, in the days of Adam by saying replenish the earth, while in reality, that is the first time by which God created a human being on this earth. So the word replenish meaning to do it once again or to repeat it, brothers and sisters. And secondly, how could it be that God pronounced them to go to the world, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth at the time when Eve were not as yet in existence, brothers and sisters? So it is very important that we need to study the scriptures. Now here in Genesis chapter 5, verse 1 and 2, and if you will look at Genesis chapter 5, verse 1, you can see the footnote Genesis 1, verse 26. And also, if you will look at Genesis 1, verse 27, you can see Genesis 5, verse 2. Now let us read Genesis chapter 5. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. So that is Genesis 1 verse 26. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. Now, think it thoroughly, brothers and sisters. Male and female called their name Adam. So the female mentioned here could not be Eve, because her name is Eve and not Adam. But here in Genesis chapter 5 verse 2, both of them, the male and the female, their name is called Adam, brothers and sisters. Now, there is only one that is called the second Adam, and we know that that is Jesus Christ. Now, let us read 1 Corinthians chapter 15 on verse 45. It says, and so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. So there are only two Adams recorded in the Bible. And that is Adam that was created in the sixth day of creation. And then the second Adam, or the last Adam, we know that that is Jesus Christ, brothers and sisters. That is Jesus Christ. Now, here in Galatians, let us read in the book of Galatians, on Galatians chapter 4, it says, but when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth His Son, made of a woman, made under the law. And the quotation here is Genesis 3:15 and also Daniel 9 verse 24. Now, when does the dispensation of the fullness of time began? Now, let us read the statement given by the voice of inspiration. It says here let me read to you. It says, the antitypical Day of Atonement He identified with the dispensation of the fullness of the times. So that is the dispensation of the fullness of the time. But I would like to read the portion. Although the dispensation of the fullness of the times began in the fall of 1844. So the commencement of that dispensation, which is called the fullness of the times, began in October 22, 1844. That is the commencement of the dispensation called the fullness of the times. Now remember, the Bible says, made of a woman. In the first advent of Jesus Christ, the description given by the shepherds is born of a woman, not made of a woman. Now let us read track number 3 on page 56. It says here, the Son of Man, He who soweth the good seed, is of course none other than Christ. But as He could not be called the Son of Man before being born of a woman, He accordingly could not have sowed the good seed of the spiritual harvest until after His birth in Bethlehem, Judea, at track number 3, page 56. So the description of Jesus Christ at His first advent is born of a woman, not made of a woman, brothers and sisters. Now, since the quotation given in the Bible is in connection with Galatians 4 verse 4 is Genesis 3 verse 15, then we will focus to that part, brothers and sisters, Genesis 3 verse 15. Now, here in, let us read the statement given by Alonzo Jones concerning the first advent of Jesus Christ, right? Saying that, it says, again it is written that the seed of the woman should bruise the serpent's head. That seed came, and did not browse the serpent's head, but himself was browsed instead. Isaiah 53 verse 5. And after he had come, and had thus been browsed even to death, had risen again from the dead, and had ascended to heaven. Even 30 years after these things it was written, the God of peace shall browse Satan's under your feet shortly. Romans 16 verse 20. So do not forget, brothers and sisters, that the predicted seed that shall browse the serpent's head is Jesus Christ. Now, accordingly, at his first advent, that seed came. But the occurrence is opposite, because it is Jesus Christ had been browsed instead. In Isaiah 53 verse 1, and he even browsed even unto death, that even after Christ ascended to heaven, according to this reading, brothers and sisters, 30 years after, even 30 years after, meaning somewhere in 60 AD, brothers and sisters. And the voice of inspiration is plainly telling here that Apostle Paul recorded in Romans 16 verse 20 that predicted event in Genesis 3 verse 15 was still unfulfilled. Now, we already proven, brothers and sisters, that accordingly, that seed of the woman represents the living church. Now, let us read 1SR Pocket Edition, page 58. 1SR Pocket Edition, page 58, it says, at the outset of this typology, it is seen that the woman, Eve, who through her own seed, the living church. So the predicted seed is the living church, is to browse the serpent's head. Genesis 3 verse 15 typifies the church preceding the Hebrew dispensation. That is Melchizedek priesthood, brothers and sisters, preceding the Hebrew dispensation. And that is section number 1. Right? Now, I would like to read 1SR. Here in 1SR, page 229 and 230, it says, Old Testament, section 1, Melchizedek, king of Salem. The first main section is the chart entitled Melchizedek. We have reserved for explanation until now. Note the following two main sections entitled Agar and Sarah are the sections of church history with earthly parentage. The first being after the flesh and the second after the spirit. Therefore, Agar and Sarah are fitting symbols for these two main sections with Abraham as the father. These two sections, Agar and Zara, are unlike the first, Melchizedek, king of Salem, which has none of these symbolical terms. It is a section of church history without earthly symbolical parentage. In order to meet the divine standard of perfection, both in symbols as well as in figures, for the entire history of God's church, He must provide a fitting symbol for this particular section as He has provided for the two succeeding sections. Whatever that symbol is, it must be the kind to indicate church history without earthly parentage. 1SR 229 and 230, and we'll explain that later, brothers and sisters. The only portion that I would like to emphasize this time is that the predicted seed of the woman in Genesis 3 verse 15, brothers and sisters, that is the living church according to the voice of inspiration. That is pointing to the living church. Now, here's another statement, and let me see if I could find that statement, saying that the promised seed, brothers and sisters, that is Isaac. In reality, that is Isaac, and that is the promised seed, brothers and sisters. It is Isaac, and I would like to look at that statement. Here in the writings of Alonzo Jones, let us read. It says here, let us read, in General Conference Daily Bulletin, page 28, and let me see if I could find that statement. So it says here, Isaac was the promised seed. So going back to Genesis, Isaac was the promised seed. And just think, Isaac never was in Egypt. You remember that. There was a famine in Egypt. And he started to go there. But the Lord said to him, do not go into Egypt. Abraham was in Egypt. Sarah was in Egypt. Israel was in Egypt, but Isaac never was in Egypt. He was the child of promise, born of the Spirit from the beginning. Now, brothers and sisters, we know that Isaac typified Jesus Christ, right? Let us read here in 1 SR on page 15 and page 16. In volume 3, page 369, we read, Isaac was a figure of the Son of God who was offered a sacrifice for the sins of the world. Again, we read in Desire of Ages, page 112. And in the ram divinely provided in the place of Isaac, Abraham saw a symbol of him who was to die for the sins of men. Thus, Isaac and the ram are symbols of Christ's submission, death, and sacrifice. 1 SR page 15 and 16. So, Isaac typify Jesus Christ. So, this predicted event in Genesis 3:15 is only illustrating the fulfillment of that event could not be on the first advent of Jesus Christ. Because on the first advent of Jesus Christ, brothers and sisters, he was in Egypt at that time, right? That is very plain, brothers and sisters. Historically and biblically, Jesus Christ was in Egypt. So, the promised seed is Isaac. And Isaac was never in Egypt, brothers and sisters. But on the first advent of Jesus Christ was in Egypt, brothers and sisters. So, it could not be the fulfillment of the prophecy that I would like to read, brothers and sisters. It says, this is true. Another thought as to spiritual Egypt, it is written of Jesus, out of Egypt have I called my son. Why is that written about Jesus? Why did Jesus go into Egypt? Why was he taken into Egypt? He could have escaped the slaughter of the children that were slain in Bethlehem by going a short distance away from that place and would not have had to go nearly so far as to Egypt. All of the little children in Palestine were not slain. It says, when the decree of Herod went forth, it was only in Bethlehem and its coast and its suburbs. Bethlehem was only 6 miles from Jerusalem, and the children in Jerusalem were not slain. So the Lord could have escaped it if he had been taken 10 or 12 miles away from Bethlehem. But why is it that Jesus Christ need to go into Egypt? And in this study, one of the significance is that if the Jewish people only study the Bible, they could understand that that is not the time that Jesus Christ will establish the kingdom of glory. Because the promise is unto Isaac that God will establish the kingdom of glory. And Isaac was never been in Egypt. Therefore, brothers and sisters, I would like to read first here in the statement. All the time, God's oath was to give that land to Abraham and to his seed. It says, do not put seeds upon it when God has torn it off. Do not put an S to that when God has torn it away. He said not unto seeds as of many, but as of one, unto thy seed, which is Christ. There were many of them, that is true. 3 million came out of Egypt, but these are not the ones that God was speaking of when he said, to thee and to thy seed, which was as of one, and which is Christ. Do you see that? Do not let the multitude of Israel get into your mind when you read the words, to thee and to thy seed. When God cuts off the S, we are not allowed to put in there at all. We must not put it there even in our thinking. Who was the seed? Christ. When he says, to thee and to thy seed, you and I must not read it in any other way than to thee and Christ will I give it for an everlasting possession. We must not put any others than Christ there, except through Christ. To thee and Christ will I give it. Now, let us elaborate that statement, brothers and sisters, given by the voice of inspiration. So, the promise that was given by God to ancient Israel, brothers and sisters, it can never be fulfilled except through Christ. The seed represented by Isaac is Jesus Christ. But why is it that it must be represented only by Isaac and none other? To let us know that the perfect fulfillment of that prophecy that was promised, that Jesus Christ will establish the kingdom of His glory on this earth, the kingdom of glory, is represented by Isaac. And Isaac was never in Egypt, brothers and sisters. Therefore, if the whole world is Egypt, then how could you be able to ascertain clearly the fulfillment of that prophecy, brothers and sisters, by which there must be a group of people or church represented by Isaac, by which that church never been in Egypt, brothers and sisters. Now, since that is pointing the living church, let us study first, brothers and sisters, concerning the covenant that made into Sinai. Now, let us read the Bible, brothers and sisters. And also, I would like to read that statement in concerning that covenant that was established in Sinai. And that is, brothers and sisters, in bondage, according to the voice of inspiration. Now, let us read. I'm looking for that statement. Let me see. So let us read the statement here. Because the promise was given by God to Isaac and not to... So I would like to read first the Bible in Galatians chapter 4. And hoping that God would help us. Here in Galatians chapter 4, very plain in the epistle of Apostle Paul in Galatians chapter 4. It says here on verse 22. Verse 22. For it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by promise, which things are an allegory. For these are the two covenants, the one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Agar. For this Agar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. For it is written, Rejoice, thou barren that bearest not, break forth and cry, thou that travailest not, for the desolate hath many more children than she which hath an husband. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the Spirit, even so it is now. Nevertheless, what saith the Scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be here with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free. Galatians 4 verse 22 to verse 31. Now, let us try to shorten this study, brothers and sisters, because I know you are familiar concerning the covenants that had been established in Mount Sinai, right? And I would like to read this reading. Let me see. It says here, Patriarchs and Prophets 374. So let us read the statement. The building of the tabernacle was not begun for some time after Israel arrived at Sinai, and the sacred structure was first set up at the opening of the second year from the Exodus. This was followed by the consecration of the priests, the celebration of the Passover, the numbering of the people, and the completion of various arrangements essential to their civil or religious system, so that nearly a year was spent in the encampment at Sinai. Here their worship had taken a more definite form. The laws had been given for the government of the nation, and more efficient organization had been effected preparatory to their entrance into the land of Canaan. So, this is the organization that had been established in Mount Sinai, by which allegorically pointing to Ishmael, the son of the bondwoman, according to the Bible and according to the Spirit prophecy. But this is the type, Israel after the flesh. Who are they? The antitypical Israel after the flesh. Now, I would like to read, brothers and sisters, 1 SR, but we will elaborate it more on our next episodes. So, let us read this statement in 1SR, let me see, on page 53. 1SR page 53. It says, Paul writes here that Ishmael represents Israel after the flesh. So that is Galatians 4 verse 22 to 25. Paul writes here that Ishmael represents Israel after the flesh. Agar represents the church that was organized at Mount Sinai at the time when Moses selected the 70 elders. So that organization that was established in Mount Sinai, Israel after the flesh, represent Agar, brothers and sisters, according to this reading. But who are they represented by Ishmael? Now then it says, see Patriarchs and Prophets, page 382. The Sanhedrin was composed of 70 men. Therefore, the number 70 represents a church organization. Thus Paul says, for this Agar is Mount Sinai, woman, symbol of the church, which is in Arabia. The same organization, after they wandered 40 years in the wilderness, crossed the Jordan and established themselves in Jerusalem. For this Agar is Mount Sinai in Arabia and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children. Agar then symbolized the church before the cross, Jerusalem of old. But that is represented by the type, Israel after the flesh. Brothers and sisters, typical Israel after the flesh. So, let us read now the statement here given by the shepherd's rod. Here in 1SR on page, let's read, I think page 73 and page 74. So, it says here, 1SR page 73. I would like to read page 74. The 2,300 days or years of Daniel's prophecy in the 8th chapter gives us the entire truth of the church history to 1844, until which time there was no call for reorganization. If there had been, or if this call for reorganization had met its fulfillment before 1844, then Daniel's prophecy would have made mention of it. As the prophecy is silent and there has no prophet of God risen since the church fell into papal power about AD 538 to 1844, then the truth of the symbol was yet in the future. As the prophetic period ended in 1844, the most holy place in the heavenly sanctuary was opened, into which Christ entered. If this incident marked the beginning of the atonement, there would have been no better or more opportune time for a call from heaven that at the end of the great prophetic period, the Day of Atonement, being the most solemn time for the church, Seventh-day Adventists were called out by a prophet and are practically the only people who believe in 2,300 days. We're the only people who have proclaimed it since 1844 are now in the atonement or the time of the judgment. So here, brothers and sisters, I would like to read the last portion. It says, thus the symbol 70 meets its fulfillment at that time. Thus the symbol 70 meets its fulfillment at that time. Now let us go back again to the reading, brothers and sisters. Remember, only Isaac never been in Egypt. Here in 1SR, I would like to read 1SR page 115 and 116. We begin with the 4th verse and onward. We shall later take the first 3 and last 2 verses. Israel after the flesh was a type of Israel by the promise, 144,000, as explained on pages 64 and page 113. The experience of the children of Israel in Egypt was a photograph of our denomination, thus their experience is being reproduced in every particular with these people. And if there are 430 years connected with Israel after the flesh, then the same period of time must be connected with the true, the 430-year period. It says, by Abraham did not have to do only with Israel, but with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as well. Now, these 4 entities that had been mentioned, Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, only Isaac never been in Egypt. Brothers and sisters, do not forget that. The Bible history plainly telling us that only Isaac never been in Egypt. Sarah been in Egypt. Abraham, Jacob, Israel, brothers and sisters, or the term Israel is pointing to the 12 tribes. All of them were in Egypt. Now, ponder deeply, brothers and sisters, with this wonderful prophecy. The Bible says that the promised seed that was given by God to Abraham is Isaac. That is the promised seed. and Isaac is typifying Jesus Christ. And what is the promise? That when that seed will came, he will bruise the serpent's head. At the first advent of Jesus Christ, according to the voice of inspiration, no. Instead, to bruise the serpent's head, it is Jesus Christ that had been bruised instead. And we already read in 1SR Pocket Edition that, brothers and sisters, let us read again. Here in 1SR Pocket Edition, on page 58, at the outset of this typology, it is seen that the woman, Eve, who through her own seed, the living church, is to bruise the serpent's head. Genesis 3:15 typifies the church preceding the Hebrew dispensation. 1SR Pocket Edition, page 58. Now, what is the priesthood preceding the Hebrew dispensation? That is Melchizedek priesthood. Now, let us go back again, brothers and sisters, to 1SR. Let us read 1SR page 229 and 230. It says, Melchizedek, king of Salem. Old Testament, section 1. So this is the very first section preceding the Hebrew dispensation, because the Hebrew dispensation, it is called section number 2. Now let us read first 223 in 1SR, page 223. And it is really wonderful to read this statement saying, I would like to read the statement. God, who is so particular for the good of His church to reveal His truth to His people, has worked out most wonderful pictures of His historical events, the evidence of everlasting love for Israel, His chosen, the first fruits of His harvest. The God of Jacob, for thousands of years in advance, had laid His plans to present to His people an art of divine touch in a beauty of perfection. You see, brothers and sisters, divine touch in a beauty of perfection. Now let us read the statement. Old Testament, section 2. Speaking of section 2, in the summary chart entitled Patriarchate Types, is the section which gave birth to the patriarchs. For this reason, we have given in that title, whom God preordained to be as monuments and signposts, as it were, and examples for His church in their appointed time to fulfill the divine purpose. Monuments, yes, more than monuments. Their voices thunder by echoes and re-echoes onward through the ages, and in our own time they are heard the loudest. Now, let us read again 1SR 229 and 230. Do not forget, brothers and sisters, that the one that shall bruise the serpent's head is the seed of the woman. Who is that promised seed? Isaac. But that is the type. The antitype is the true object. Right? In 1SR 226, it says, the types themselves are not the true object, no more than a photograph is, but it is a representation which pictures an unmistakable evidence, the object in view. 1SR 226. So the type is only a photograph. That is not the true object. The true object is the antitype. So Isaac is the type, the photograph of the promised seed. The true object is Jesus Christ. But the Bible, the Spirit prophecy explained that predicted event that Jesus Christ, the true object, that He will be the one to bruise the serpent's head. It was not fulfilled on the first advent of Jesus Christ because the photograph is Isaac, and Isaac was never in Egypt. But on the first advent of Jesus Christ was in Egypt. And the voice of inspiration says that, why is it that it is necessary for the angel to instruct Mary and Joseph to brought Jesus Christ into Egypt, while in reality, the child could be able to escape such destruction in the hand of Herod if Jesus Christ would only, or his parents would only travel at least just 10 miles from Bethlehem, because only in Bethlehem there was destruction. But the reason why it is necessary for the parents of Jesus Christ to brought Jesus Christ into Egypt is an absolute information supposed to be to all the Jewish nation that at that time Jesus Christ will not establish the kingdom of glory, but rather the kingdom of grace. Because that predicted event when Jesus Christ will establish the kingdom of glory, it must be in the time typifying the photograph, which is Isaac. And Isaac was never in Egypt. And here's another proof that we would like to read in 1SR 229, saying the first main section, because we already read in 1SR Packet Edition, page 58, that the predicted seed of the woman, typifying Isaac, must be finally be fulfilled to the living church. And I fully believe that the living church mentioned there, it must be, brothers and sisters, pointing to the last ordained ministry. In this study, although it is not a big deal, but it might be the first of the first fruits, or it might be the last ordained ministry, their number is excluded with the number of the 144,000, or it is either their number is a part of that entire 144,000. As I've said, although it is not a big deal, but we will discuss that on the subject, the wave sheep and the wave loaves. But the most important part in this study is that the predicted last ordained ministry could not be in Egypt. And the type exactly fits, because the type Isaac, there was a time that he wished to go to Egypt, but God told him, do not go into Egypt. And that is really our experience, because there was a time that, brothers and sisters, that we desired to go to Egypt, but providentially, it never been materialized. Not until we found out that it is found in the prophecy. Now, if we will be saying that the whole world is Egypt, then how could it be fulfilled? That predicted event, that there must be a group of people represented by Isaac, brothers and sisters, that they will never be in Egypt. So we need to think it thoroughly, brothers and sisters. Now, I would like to read here in 1SR 229 and 230. The first main section in the chart entitled Melchizedek, we have reserved for explanation until now. It says, note the following two main sections entitled Agar and Sarah are the sections of church history with earthly parentage, the first being after the flesh and the second after the spirit. Therefore, Agar and Sarah are fitting symbols for these two main sections with Abraham as the father. These two sections, Agar and Sarah, are unlike the first, Melchizedek, king of Salem, which has none of these symbolical terms. It is a section of church history without earthly symbolical parentage. In order to meet the divine standard of perfection, both in symbols as well as in figures, for the entire history of God's church, He must provide a fitting symbol for this particular section as He has provided for the two succeeding sections. Whatever that symbol is, it must be the kind to indicate church history without earthly parentage. So that is very plain, brothers and sisters. Now, what does it mean by without earthly parentage or no symbolical earthly parentage? Now, this is what we are trying to emphasize to you, brothers and sisters. The premillennial kingdom that will be established by Jesus Christ in Mount Zion, there is an earthly, symbolical, earthly parentage, brothers and sisters. But there must be, brothers and sisters, that kingdom that God will establish, by which symbolized by Melchizedek priesthood, by which there is no earthly symbolical parentage. Now, I know it is still a deep subject, but as we proceed from time to time, it will become more clearer and clearer, brothers and sisters. But I would like to emphasize first 1SR page 135. It says, but just put into your mind that there must be antitypical fulfillment of that priesthood under Melchizedek priesthood. Because concerning the living church, here in 12 Symbolic Code number 5, it says here, let's read 513, 12 Symbolic Code number 5, page 13. To make up the church, there must be the mother, the agency which embodies the truth, brothers and sisters. And And who is the mother in this study, brothers and sisters? The type, the mother is, the type is Eve. Genesis 3:15, right? Because it is pointing to Genesis 3, verse 15. Let us read first the statement in 12 symbolic code number 5, page 5. So that we could understand. 12 symbolic code number 5, page 5. Genesis 3:15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. And it shall browse thy head, and thou shalt browse his heel. That is a prophecy. And the 6,000 years prophecy is involved in this study. Right? Reading the Great Controversy. The Great Controversy, 505. Let us read the statement. The Great Controversy, page 505, it says, I would like to read to you. I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall browse thy head, and thou shalt browse his heel. Genesis 3, verse 15. The divine sentence pronounced against Satan after the fall of man was also a prophecy embracing all the ages to the close of time and foreshadowing the great conflict to engage all the races of men who should live upon the earth. The Great Controversy, page 505. And that is great prophecy. It is called the controversy between good and evil. Now let us go back to 12 symbolic code number 5, page 5. Then it says the commentary given. We cannot possibly misunderstand what woman God meant in this scripture. For there was but one woman, Eve. Then in the earth, in the presence of Adam and Eve and the serpent, God spoke these words predicting the future outcome of Eve's seed and the serpent. So that is pointing to Eve's seed. But we already read, brothers and sisters, the seed of Eve is pointing to the living church. One is our pocket edition, page 58, and here in page 13 in 12 symbolic code number 5, page 13. To make up the church, there must be the mother, brothers and sisters. The agency which embodies the truth, the children, the people brought into the church, and the priesthood. These three constitute the living church on earth. 12 symbolic code number 5, page 13. So the living church constitute three constituents: the mother, and the children, and the priesthood, according to this reading, brothers and sisters. Now, and we already read that the living church is typifying the priesthood prior to the Hebrew dispensation, and that is Melchizedek priesthood. Now, let us go back again to the reading in 1SR Pocket Edition, page 58. It says, at the outset of this typology, it is seen that the woman, Eve, who through her own seed, the living church, the term the living church is applied to the church that will no longer to taste death. If you will go to White House Recruiter on page 61 and page 62, it is even more clearer by stating the fact that the living church that shall browse the serpent's head are the 11th hour servants. Now let us read White House Recruiter, page 61 and page 62. It says, now at the 11th hour, therefore, the recruiter is marshalling forces the world around to the standard of the great Prince of Truth in preparation for heaven's imminent day-day assault against the abominations that are carried on by the hypocrites, by the dragon's blood. Revelation 12:15. Soon, though the earth will open its mouth and swallow up the flood, then those who are left, the remnant, the escape of Israel. Isaiah 4 verse 2. The first contingent of commandos for Christ will put such firmness and decision into their testimonies that they will make a break against the barriers of Satan. Testimonies to Ministers, page 413. They will browse his head when he goes to make war against them. And the quotation is Genesis 3:15, Revelation 12, verse 16, and verse 17. Therefore, the same verse in 1SR Pocket Edition, page 58, and that is pointing to the priesthood prior to the Hebrew dispensation, and that is Melchizedek priesthood. And the Shepherd's Rod declared clearly in 1SR 229 and 230 that whatever the antitype of that Melchizedek priesthood, it must be perfectly portraying that it must be a symbolical of the history of the church, or the event that will experienced by God's people, the living saints that will no longer to taste death, by which the illustration is without any symbolical parentage. So what does it mean, brothers and sisters, with such illustration? Now, I would like to read first this reading in 1 SR 135. And as I've said, just always to remember that there must be historical event that God's people will experience that would exactly portray the existence of Melchizedek. There is no parental origin, brothers and sisters, according to the voice of inspiration. Now, I would like to read to you here in 1 SR 135. It says, these 13 chapters of Isaiah are one continuous letter written for the church, and I do fully believe that the church mentioned here must be the church prior to the millennium. Now, brothers and sisters, so it says, these 13 chapters of Isaiah are one continuous letter written for the church. Though they had been in the Bible for many centuries, they were intended for us at this present time and stand as a direct epistle to the church now. And in reality, this statement is definitely applied this year 2020 rather than in the days of Pentecost, because the focal point of this letter is the saints that will no longer to taste death. And it says, brothers and sisters, the 54th chapter is the beginning of the letter and it ends with the 66th. And on chapter 54, the main subject there is concerning Isaac, Ishmael, Sarah, and Agar. So we need to study closely, brothers and sisters, Isaiah 54. Right now, I would like to read, hoping that God would help us, brothers and sisters, because it is not a doctrine just to merely pass the time. It needs serious attention, brothers and sisters. Now, let us read 1 TG 39, page 3. The children of the barren more than the children of the bearing woman. Remember, brothers and sisters, according to the voice of inspiration, in the epistle of Apostle Paul in Galatians 4, verse 22 to verse 25, it represents two covenants, the bondwoman and the free woman. The free woman is Sarah or Sarai, by which the son of Agar is born after the flesh, brothers and sisters. But the son of Agar is a miracle child. She was pregnant even though Abraham do not touch her, unlike with Agar. She was pregnant because Abraham touched her. Isaac and Jesus Christ, both of them are miracle child. The only difference is that Isaac was born from Sarah, not in her virginity, but rather after Sarah for many years been in a menopausal period. But Jesus Christ was born also miracle child. Joseph did not touch Mary, but Jesus Christ was born in the virginity of Mary. So that is the only difference, brothers and sisters. And there is an absolute significance of both of that, brothers and sisters, because it is closely connected to the subject, the Assyrian Confederacy, which soon, very soon, I know, those events will take place. Then Emmanuel, by virtue of facts, it is represented by Jesus Christ. But the predicted event in Isaiah chapter 7 and chapter 8 was not fulfilled in the past due to the fact that there is a time discrepancy. And that is why in track number 14, let us read track number 14 on page 32. It says, the high points of this confederacy, some of which are still unfulfilled, fall into sequence thusly. Number 1, the overthrow of both ancient Israel and Syria by ancient Assyria as a divine judgment, especially upon Israel for confederating against her own brethren, the kingdom of Judah. Isaiah 7, verse 2 to 9. Second, the birth of a man-child, Emmanuel, to a virgin. It did not say the birth of a man-child, Emmanuel, from a virgin, but the birth of a man-child, Emmanuel, to a virgin. And this is what it means by made of a woman instead of born of a woman. On the first advent of Jesus Christ, of course, Jesus Christ is Emmanuel, brothers and sisters, born from a virgin, born of a woman. Whereas the predicted event, brothers and sisters, is that at the second advent of Jesus Christ, invisible, in the dispensation of the fullness of the time, Jesus Christ is made of a woman. And that is the reason why the Bible says in Genesis chapter 5. Let us read again, brothers and sisters. Genesis chapter 5, and we will continue it tomorrow. It is still a long study. Here in Genesis chapter 5, verse 2, male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. So, the female here must be the church. Why is it that that church is called Adam? Because that is Jesus Christ made of a woman, brothers and sisters. Now, here in 12 symbolic code, although there are many passages, but I will just read this reading. It says, 12 symbolic code number 5 and 6. It says, we cannot possibly misunderstand what woman God meant in this scripture. For there was but one woman, Eve. Then in the earth, in the presence of Adam and Eve and the serpent, God spoke these words, predicting the future outcome of Eve's seed and the serpent. Eve's children were to have their heel browsed by the serpent, the devil. And in return, the children of Eve, the human family, were to browse the devil's head, the serpent's head. Now, you know that even if one's leg were to be amputated, one can live on. But when one is decapitated, his life immediately ends. God predicted here that there was to be enmity between good and evil all through the time. And though the serpent would wound the human family, yet the descendants of Adam and Eve were finally to browse Satan's head. But you may say, Christ is to do that. I do not wish to dispute your word, but actually, it is Christ through the human family that is to accomplish it. For in Jeremiah 51 verse 20, God himself declares that Israel is to be his battle axe, his weapon of war, for with Israel will he break in pieces the nations. Then though it is to be accomplished by the will and direction of Christ, yet Christ will do it through his people. In this way, his people who have been wounded by Satan will finally browse Satan's head. So that is very plain, brothers and sisters. The human family mentioned there, of course, that is the church, brothers and sisters. And the voice of inspiration already told us that that is the living church, the last generation of men, brothers and sisters. And I would like to remind first, brothers and sisters, that if you still remember in the ceremonial system, brothers and sisters, I would like to read here in the Great Controversy, I think the Great Controversy, 658. It says, now the event takes place foreshadowed in the last solemn service on the Day of Atonement, when the ministration in the Holy of Holies had been completed, and the sins of Israel had been removed from the sanctuary by virtue of the blood of the sin offering. Then the scapegoat was presented alive before the Lord, and in the presence of the congregation, the high priest confessed over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and all their transgression in all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat. Leviticus 16 verse 21. In like manner, when the work of atonement in the heavenly sanctuary has been completed, then in the presence of God and heavenly angels and the host of the redeemed, the sins of God's people will be placed upon Satan. He will be declared guilty of all the evil which he has caused them to commit. And as the scapegoat was sent into a land not inhabited, so Satan will be banished to the desolate earth and inhabited and dreary wilderness. But the fact is, in the ceremonial system, there is a fit man. I'm looking to that word, saying a fit man that will bring that scapegoat into the wilderness, brothers and sisters. And that is in the Great Controversy and located in Leviticus. And in our next episode, we will emphasize that that fit man is none other than, brothers and sisters, the last ordained ministry that to be Satan knew it beforehand that that is his Waterloo, when that last ordained ministry will take him into the field of action. So, a great controversy 419, it says, "And Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat, and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and all their transgressions in all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat, and shall send him away by the hand of a fit man into the wilderness, and the goat shall bear upon him all their iniquities unto a land not inhabited." Brothers and sisters, and that fit man is none other than Jesus Christ, but Jesus Christ will do it in the instruments of the human family. But in Jeremiah 51 verse 20, it is called Israel. And we know Israel is section number 3. Brothers and sisters, according to 1 SR page 228, New Testament section number 3. But I would like to read the last paragraph. It says, "Though the duration of this last section of provisionary time entitled Israel," so that is, what does it mean by Israel? Overcomers. In track number 9, brothers and sisters, we will repeat this on our next episode. In track number 9, on page 62, it says, "The overcomers." So that's what it means by a name Israel, overcomers. The overcomers, the marked ones, from it those who hear the rod, begin the 8th section of the church, the ones symbolized by the barn, Matthew 13:30, and by the bezels, verse 48, also by the golden candlestick of Zechariah chapter 4. And we know the statement in TM 4:45 that those who overcome the flesh, the world, and the devil will be the favored ones who shall receive the seal of the living God in their foreheads. And also in 2SR, brothers and sisters, it says here, in 2SR page, let me see the statement, 189, it says, during 2SR 189, no, this is not the statement. The statement saying that those 199, 2SR 199, in the judgment, it is granted to the saints that had gotten the victory over the beast, the victory over his image, and the victory over his mark, and the victory over the number of his name, to stand on the sea of glass, life eternal. Revelation 15 verse 2. 2SR 199. We will continue this subject, brothers and sisters, and to repeat again, the particular object in view in the first seal is still unfinished, and we will continue that in our next episode. Or in other words, before we could arrive to the last seal, the 7th seal, we need first to enumerate one by one the breaking of the 7 seals, brothers and sisters, and let us distinctly separate the groundwork and the particular object in view. But we are focusing our attention to the particular object in view because the groundwork is already explained by B.T. Hotep. The groundwork was already given by God to B.T. Hotep. But the present truth under the 7th seal, or the present truth under the judgment that pertains to the living, it is pertaining to the particular object in view in its seal when it is consecutively broken, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much, and we will continue this subject, hoping the good Lord will bless you and have a wonderful evening.